All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's Thursday morning. We're going to be taking a look at some of my favorite NBA player props over on PrizePicks. That's what we do around here. We're going to be taking a look at the points, the rebounds, the assists, the three-point makes, and we'll take some of your favorite fantasy point props as well. So if you don't play on PrizePicks yet, now's a great time to sign up and do so. 100% instant deposit match is waiting for you. All you have to do is use promo code Curry. You see it floating right above my head up here. Promo code Curry gets you a 100% instant deposit match on your first deposit all the way up to $100. So take advantage of this deal today. Makes your first entry on PrizePicks totally risk-free. Can't beat that. Good morning to everybody. We've got a short little NBA slate today, just 4 games. 4 games to take a look at today, folks. Not too many games going on in the association tonight. How did last night treat everybody out there? I see a few of you in the chat already kind of talking about your wins, your losses from last night. We definitely hit on some good plays yesterday. The one that really stood out was the super chat that was left by my man Hoodat. Hoodat left the first half Zach LaVine points over first half points at 12.5 points, and that ended up hitting. So shout out to you, Hoodat, for leaving that gem in the chat. Sounds like a lot of people tailed it. I know that it was a popular pick because PrizePicks ended up moving it from 12.5 points to 13.5 first half points for LaVine. So I know it was a popular play. I know a lot of people took it. So again, shout out to you. Thank you for dropping that gem in the chat yesterday. Good morning to everybody who's joining me. David, Ronnie, am I saying it right? Mac B's up in here. He says, good morning, run them likes up. You see my pinned comment in the chat. Let's run those likes up. We're going for 100 plus likes per usual. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's a great opportunity for you to go ahead, get subscribed. Make sure that notifications are turned on. I typically go live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Now, I'm going to warn you right now, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. It also happens to be the eve of my wedding anniversary. So your boy's not going to be here tomorrow. Breaking news. I won't be here tomorrow morning for you guys. Unfortunately, I'm going to be spending some time with my wife. We're going to go probably do something fun and celebrate ushering in a new year, 2022. So what are your goals? What are your resolutions? What do you guys hope to accomplish in the new year? I've got some big goals. We accomplished a lot this year, but I got some big goals going forward in 2022. And a lot of them involve you guys. So stay tuned for that. We're continuing the growth. We're continuing to get bigger and bigger, add more people to the community, help more people through sports and sports betting and player props. So those are some of my early goals here for 2022. But shout out to everybody here. Tony, good to see you. Miguel's in the building. He said, watched you for the first time yesterday. Hit on 2 of my tickets. Coincidence? You got my subscribe. Thank you so much, Miguel. I'm glad you landed on a couple of plays. Ronald's Green is up in here, one of our Patreon members. Shout out to you. Tony, we already said hello to you, but he's another one of our Patreon members. Thank you so much for being a member of the community this month. I love having you guys up in the Discord and be able to chat about some NBA player props every single night. RB Powell, last night was abusive to you. Well, hopefully we can put some ice on some of those bruises, some of them lumps and bumps you might have taken last night. Yesterday was a pretty good night on Patreon. I wrote up 4 different picks. 3 of them were points props. I took the over on Devin Booker's points. He absolutely smashed against OKC. No surprise there. Took the over on... Who were the other ones? You guys might have to help me remember. Oh, Karis LeVert. As soon as Malcolm Brogdon was ruled out, I went to Karis LeVert's points. That one ended up working out. And Desmond Bane, who was an ultimate sweat. It came down to the last 5 seconds of the game. Bane was intentionally fouled. Ended up going to the free throw line, making a couple of clutch free throws and put him over his point prop of 18.5 points. The only pick that didn't work out for me last night on my Patreon post, my Patreon write-up, was Kristaps Porzingis over 8.5 rebounds. He was in a great spot against the Sacramento Kings. The game stayed close, competitive. He was in there for a lot of minutes, 4 quarters. The man just couldn't find the rebounds. Kept finding himself drifting out to the 3-point line, guarding Marvin Bagley III, guarding Metu out there around the perimeter. So kind of pulled him away from the hoop a little bit. Did not have a good rebounding night. So we went 3-1 last night on the Patreon picks. Needed a little bounce back. Finally found one last night and landed on some good picks. Good morning to you, Jimmy, another one of our Patreon members in the building. Royster Cam 1, let's go. Shout out LaVine, first half points. Absolutely. That was a great pick, solid play. You guys are talking about Marcus Morris as well. Marcus Morris over points was easy. He ended up getting way bumped up by a couple of points by the end of the night on PrizePicks. So that was definitely a popular play. Royster, let's go. Shout out first half LaVine points. Oma9 hit a 5-pick flex for $300 last night. Dem Dog's ready to get it today. He's ready to get it today. I see you in here. I see you, my friend. Yeah, Dorian Finney-Smith was disappointing last night. He was. Got into some big-time foul trouble. Unfortunately, Dorian Finney-Smith scored the ball really well, actually. but the dude was in foul trouble all night long. I thought there was going to be a sliver of hope, a slim chance that he was going to get there in the fourth quarter. He put up like 5 quick points. He sat there at 11, but we lost by the hook. We lost by the hook, unfortunately. Shout out to Blue Samples up in here. Congrats, CJ. My anniversary is in March. Yes. We got to, take some time to spend time with the family, the loved ones, their spouses, our significant others. We can't have sports betting and sports every single day all the time. So I'm going to definitely be kind of unplugging tomorrow and spending some time with the wifey and finding something cool to do. I think we're going to go see that new Spider-Man movie. It's something I've been wanting to do. Of course, I'm so wrapped up doing content with you guys and doing, everything that I do in the Patreon community. I got the show on Wednesday with the Action Network, which I did yesterday. So I've been a busy guy, and it's time to give wifey some time and attention. You gotta balance it. Todd says, thanks for yesterday, CJ. My account is building due to you. I appreciate that. Kev says, let's go. Ready to make some money? What up, CJ? What up to you, Kev? Good morning to King Chris, another one of our Patreon members. Good to see you up in here this morning, King Chris. Denzel's back in here. He's one of our regulars. Christopher Money says, how you guys feel about this small game slate? Well, we're going to get into that, my friend. We're going to definitely get into that. Good to see everybody up in here this morning, though. Brandon Buchanan leaving some emojis in there. He's leaving the big eyes, the OK sign. Good to see you, Brandon. Appreciate you being up in here. Thank you for the happy anniversary wishes. Appreciate all of the goodwill and all the sweet things that you guys are saying. So, listen, just a 4-game slate. Just a little 4-game slate. So we're chopping it up a little bit. We're talking shop here a little bit. For you that are just now getting in here, definitely drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. I won't be here tomorrow, okay? That's the big news. The breaking news of today is that, unfortunately, I will not be spending tomorrow morning with you guys. But I'll be back at it on Monday, of course. Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, as always, per usual. So let's go ahead and break it on down, man. Let's break it on down. 4 games. All right, we got a rematch here. Milwaukee Bucks at the Orlando Magic. We know what happened the 3 previous times that these two teams met. It was blowout city, right? And today looks to be kind of more of the same. 218.5 implied points. We got the Milwaukee Bucks as 14-point favorites on the road in Orlando. Long list of names here for the Magic. Moore, Isaac, Carter Williams, Fultz, Suggs, Okeke, Ross, and Lopez all out. Yes, Robin Lopez is out for Orlando. But they did just get Mo Wagner back. So, that front court, it's going to be Wendell Carter Jr., Mo Wagner holding things down here. For the Milwaukee side, Brook Lopez is out. He's the only one that's out for Milwaukee, so they should be pretty much running at about 100% here. 7 p.m. also brings us the Philadelphia 76ers at the Brooklyn Nets. For the Nets, Harris, Sharp, Duke, Edwards, and Kyrie Irving, who is going to be coming back to the team. Sounds like Kyrie's rejoining the Nets. He may only play in the road games as I don't believe he's vaccinated. I don't know. I'm not up in his beeswax like that. But apparently, his stance on the vaccines and all that stuff, that's a whole nother story. But he can't play home games. So he might just be playing in road games only for Brooklyn. But it's great to see Kyrie back. And it's great to see Kevin Durant is not on this injury list. So it looks like it's going to be Claxton, Durant, Bembry, Mills, and Harden tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers. This should be must-see TV. This should be a fun game. For Philadelphia, no Ben Simmons, no Danny Green, Shake Milton, game time decision. We got 221 implied points with a 5-point spread. So this is going to be a game that I'm probably going to be taking some props from for sure. Going down to the 7 p.m. matchup between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Washington Wizards, we've got 210.5 points on the board here. 3.5-point spread in favor of the home team, the Washington Wizards. Lots of names on the injury report here. Let's start things off with the Cavaliers side. We've got Wendler, Stevens, and Jarrett Allen. All game time decisions. Obviously, Jarrett Allen would be a huge one. Definitely want to pay attention to the injury news with him. Is he in? Is he out? Colin Sexton, Davis, Garland, Rubio, and Osman all out for Cleveland. If it wasn't bad enough that Sexton was out with a torn meniscus, Ricky Rubio has been diagnosed with a torn ACL, so their backcourt is getting thin quickly. And Darius Garland's out right now. So Who's going to be in the backcourt for this team? That is a great question. Kevin Pangos, whoever the heck that is, Isaac Okoro. Okay, I think I could see Isaac Okoro having a pretty big game here against Washington. Looking at the Washington side of things, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Bradley Beal, the biggest ones here. Montrezl Harrell, also a game time decision. Already ruled out Winston, Bryant, Neto, and Hachimura. So a number of different names to be on the lookout there. Definitely Bradley Beal, the most impactful. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Harrell, some other names to be mindful of. 9:30 p.m., the late night game. We get another rematch here of the Golden State Warriors versus the Denver Nuggets. Look, the other night I took Steph Curry over on 29.5 points versus Denver. He's at 27.5 points today, coming off of a bad game against this Denver Nuggets team. They're not very good at defending the point guard position. You could kind of see where I'm going with this. I'm going back to Curry. 213.5 implied point total. The spread is just 4.5 points, so not a super high total, but it looks like it's going to stay close and competitive here. No Thompson, Lee, Draymond Green, and James Wiseman for Golden State. Over on the Nuggets side, we got Rivers, Morris, Gordon, Konkar, all game time decisions. Murray, Dozier, Porter, and Howard already ruled out. Paulius says, Kevin Pangos. If I'm not mistaken, he played for Gonzaga and then went overseas to play for Zalgiris Kaunas? I don't know what that means. Not sure what that means. Or where that is. But yeah, going back to Curry, man. I think I'm going to go back to my man Steph Curry. Yeah, I see some of you guys saying some good things about Spider-Man. Don't you spoil it for me. Don't you spoil a movie for me. I've avoided the spoilers up to this point, all right? Let's keep it about basketball. Let's not talk about what Peter Parker does or doesn't do, all right? Don't be that guy or that girl and spoil the dang movie. Eric, good to see you in here. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. Yes, I did, and I hope you did too. Lithuania. Okay, it's a Lithuanian team. All right. Well, we've kind of covered all the games here. We've kind of covered all the injury news, what to expect, names to look out for, who's in, who's out. Kind of a small slate like we talked about, just 4 games. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts of the slate. We'll start things off by looking at some point props. And why not start it off with this guy right here, Gary Harris of the Orlando Magic. Now, I know he came up a little bit short against Milwaukee in his last game, had 13 points. Death by hook, 13.5. That 0.5 is known as the hook, so he fell just short. But in his previous 4 games, 20, 22, 17, and 17 respectively. So an 80% hit rate over his last 5 games, 80% hit rate over his last 10 games. Could this be a little bit of a get-right, bounce-back spot for Gary Harris? We know the Orlando Magic dealing with a ton of injuries. Gary Harris is going to get all the opportunities he wants to shoot the basketball. It's just the way that it is. So let's look at this matchup here. He kind of slots in as that shooting guard for Orlando. We're going to take a look at Fantasy Pros. Totally free tool for you to check out. Lets you see a defense versus position sort of breakdown for all your favorite single stat player props, whether that be points, rebounds, assists, 3-point makes, even fantasy points. This tool right here, this little sheet, very helpful, very helpful. So we're going to go down. We're going to find the Milwaukee Bucks. They're giving up about 18.5 points per game over the last 7 games to opposing shooting guards. Gary Harris, obviously a shooting guard here. So 18.5, you can see kind of where they rank. They're the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th toughest team against opposing shooting guards when it comes to points. But at 18.5 points, there is some ceiling there. There's some room, some upward room here for Gary Harris to get it done. And he's shown good form in the last 10 games and the last 5 games, as we mentioned, 80% hit rate. So let's go over to the action projection tools. This is a part of Fantasy Labs. Very soon, guys, I hope to get an affiliate code for Action Labs, for Fantasy Labs, for all of you who ask, what is this site that you're using? What are these projections? What are these tools that you've got up? Very soon, my friends, I will hopefully have a discount code, a discount link for you to go sign up. All right. So if you're thinking about signing up, hold off. Hopefully I can make it worth your while here. Looking at Gary Harris, I got him projected for 14.4 points. 14.4, obviously more than 13.5. We've got him on a couple of different books, but we're seeing some different results here. We're seeing some people take the over, some people take the under on Gary Harris here. Minus 115 over 13.5, minus 122 under 13.5, and minus 120 over 13.5. So like I said, mixed bag here, but the projection's looking good here. He did fall a little bit short with just 13 points. I know this game has extreme blowout potential. They've been blown out all 3 times, their last 3 games against the Milwaukee Bucks. But this could be a good spot for you to go back to Gary Harris here. All right, because it's going to be him. It's going to be Franz Wagner, who had a huge game in his last game. It's going to be those guys getting the job done. David, leaving a super chat this morning. Look whenever you see fit. Tobias Harris over first half fantasy points. He has gone over 8 for 9 overall versus Brooklyn in the last 9. Okay, I think I'm deciphering that right. So you're liking Tobias Harris over first half fantasy points versus Brooklyn. And you say he's hitting 8 out of his last 9 matchups versus the Nets. Okay, we'll take a look at that. Remind me. I'm gonna. You know what I'll do? I'll go ahead and pin this. Will it let me pin it? Oh, it won't let me pin it. Shoot. All right, just remind me. Let's go through the points and stuff, and then we'll get to the fantasy points, first half stuff, and all that. And we'll come back around to that. But I definitely want to make sure that we talk about it. Other guys who are looking like a high hit rate for points, Chris Middleton, he covered his points prop in the last matchup against the Orlando Magic at 17.5 points. He has gone over this number in his last 10 games 80% of the time. We're looking at his last 5 games here on PrizePicks. He's covered it in 3 of 5. So that's a 60% hit rate, 18.2 points per game in his last 5 games. So I took Middleton over rebounds versus Orlando 1 game ago. He was at 4.5. He did not cover that. Nor did he cover his assist prop. What he did cover was his points prop, like I said, with 21 points. So let's take a look at this matchup. We know Orlando pretty bad. They're a pretty bad team. They give up a lot of points to all positions, really. But looking specifically at the small forward position, they are giving up the second most points per game to the opposing small forward position, nearly 24 points per game in that span. So again, great matchup here for Chris Middleton. He covered just 1 game ago against this same Orlando Magic squad. So he could be somebody worth looking at, worth looking into. Let's pull a projection up for Chris Middleton here. I got him going for 20.4 points, guys. That puts him 3 points over his line of 17.5 right now. Minus 115, minus 122, and minus 125 betting favorite to cover, respectively. 17.5 is just too low for Chris Middleton, especially against the Orlando Magic in this matchup. If you're worried about a blowout situation with Chris Middleton or the rest of these Milwaukee Bucks, listen, you got first half options here for Chris Middleton at 8.5 points. Okay? You could take him first half only if you think this game gets out of hand, which it will. It's just a matter of when will it get out of hand. But you could always take this as a first half option. Looking like a very good matchup here for Chris Middleton. Again, a guy who's been getting it done at an 80% hit rate over his last 10 games. Some other names to consider. Bobby Portis, not up on the board, but if you find him somewhere at 14.5 points, he's been covering his prop at an 80% hit rate over his last 10 games. You could also look at Drew Holiday, who's been covering his 17.5 point prop at an 80% hit rate in his last 10 games. He barely squeaked it out against Orlando in their last meeting, scoring 18 points. So we could take a look at this matchup for Drew Holiday against the Orlando Magic. Orlando, over the last 7 games, they do a lot better job at guarding point guards or limiting point guards in terms of scoring. They do a lot better job against point guards than they do small forwards. So for me, I would be favoring Chris Middleton over Drew Holiday. That's just kind of the way that I would lean on this. Pulling up a projection for Drew, he's at 17.9. So we're not seeing the big margins, the big differentials. 17.5 for Chris Middleton. He was projected for like almost 21 or something like that. It's a lot closer here for Drew Holiday at 17.5, projected for 17.9. Plus, 3 different books, people are taking the under on Drew Holiday, minus 125, minus 116, and minus 125, respectively. So if you're going to go with any of these Milwaukee Bucks guys, if it's Drew Holiday, if it's Chris Middleton, I would probably favor Chris Middleton's points. All right. Good morning, Sed. Thanks for joining me. If you guys have any picks or plays that you're interested in, hold off on those. We'll take those at the end of the stream so that way I don't have to scroll up and kind of weed through all the comments and all that stuff, okay? There's only 5 likes and 119 people in here. Oh, man. We got to change that. Let's go ahead, take a minute, flip the script, guys. Run those likes up. 119 of you and only 5 likes, unacceptable. Come on now. I know you guys got more in you than that. Who else are we liking today? We got Joel Embiid versus the Brooklyn Nets. I like this matchup. He's going up against who? Nicholas Claxton? Is Nicholas Claxton going to clamp Joel Embiid? Absolutely not. The last time that Joel Embiid faced the Brooklyn Nets, he dropped 32 points on their heads. The last 5 games have been fantastic for Embiid as well. 32, 41, 36, 36. So he's gone for 30 or more points in 4 out of his last 5 games. This game is projected to stay close. It's projected to have a pretty nice total. I don't think Nicholas Claxton slows Joel Embiid down. I think this is a good way for you to go here. Embiid, over his last 10 games, hitting at about a 60% hit rate. Like I said, 80% in those last 5. So I think this is a phenomenal spot here for Joel Embiid. He's probably going to take young Nick Claxton to school. If we go and take a look at this matchup here, over the last 7 games, the Brooklyn Nets given up about 21.5 points to opposing centers. That's kind of like middle of the pack. But Joel Embiid obviously is one of the best big men in the league, if not the best center in the league. Showing fantastic form here lately. I expect a good game from the process. Pulling up his projection, we got him at 29.6 right now using the action projection tools. That's 3 points higher than his line over on PrizePicks. Guys, I'm seeing some tremendous value this morning. Chris Middleton over points, Joel Embiid over points. Maybe you go and dip into that Gary Harris over 13.5 points. I'm just saying, looks like some good value out here. Minus 115, minus 114, and minus 120 betting favorite to go over 26.5 points. Sometimes you just got to put the numbers aside and you just got to look at the matchup. Joel Embiid versus Nick Claxton. Dropped 32 on them back on December 16th, a couple weeks ago. I mean, is Nick Claxton going to do anything to stop Embiid? What's going to really change? I don't know. Maybe it's just too easy. It just seems too easy. All right, so that's some points props. That's some points props for you. Obviously, there's a lot more names that we could discuss here, but we got to keep it moving here because we got to discuss some rebounds. Who are the highest hitting rebounders on tonight's slate? Well, we've got Bobby P. He's not up on the board right now, but if you get Bobby Portis up there at 7.5 rebounds, or if you could play him somewhere else at 7.5 rebounds, dude has covered his prop in 80% of his games this season. He would be a good look. You've also got my man Franz Wagner here. In the last 10 games for him, 60% hit rate. Not great, but good. Not great, but good. The last time he faced Milwaukee, he pulled in 7 boards. Had a fantastic game scoring. Had a pretty good game all around. 7 rebounds is pretty good for this kid. You could see, though, it's kind of been hit or miss. He's hit 5 rebounds or more in 3 out of his last 5 games. So that's a 60% hit rate. His averages in that span, 5.8, nearly 6 rebounds in that span. So he's shown a pretty decent ability with all the injuries to the Magic to rebound the basketball. So what we do here, we go to the small forward position, we head over to the rebound column, and then we go find the Milwaukee Bucks, and you can see that they're giving up about 9 boards per game to opposing small forwards over the last 7 games. So the matchup here is a plus matchup for Franz Wagner. Now, you're probably going to find him at 5.5 rebounds on most sites. He has been bumped down to 5 on PrizePicks. So that puts us in a good position for a potential push, which is, not what we want. We want to hit this over if we plan on taking the over at 6 rebounds. But we'll settle for a push in some situations. It's better than losing the pick altogether, right? So I got it projected for 4.9 boards. Let's round it up. Call it 5 rebounds. And then on two different books, we're seeing betting odds at minus 130 to go under 5.5. So yeah, it's looking like it could set up for a push situation, or a tie, in other words, where he lands exactly on 5 rebounds. But you could look his way if you're looking for some rebound props. Another one that maybe we could look at, we talked about Joel Embiid's points. He struggled to rebound the basketball against Brooklyn. The last time these two teams met, he pulled in just 9 boards. Brooklyn will have Kevin Durant back. He should probably, factor in on the rebounds somewhat. But over the last 5 games here, it's been kind of a struggle for Joel Embiid. He's averaging 10.6 rebounds per game in that 5-game span. That puts him under 11.5, obviously, by almost 1 whole rebound. So what do you guys think? Is Embiid going to get the over here against Brooklyn? 12 or more boards? Let's pull up this matchup. Let's see how many rebounds per game that Brooklyn's given up to opposing centers. So we'll go find Brooklyn. Got to go down about halfway here. They're kind of a middle of the road average team when it comes to keeping opposing centers off of the rebounds, giving up about 15.6 boards. So the over for Embiid may not be the move. You may want to look at an under here. Let's pull up a projection. I got him going for 11.3 rebounds, which puts him slightly under the 11.5 mark. But on two different books, betting favorite at minus 120 and minus 115 odds to cover the 11.5 boards. So interesting case study here for Joel Embiid. Another guy that absolutely has been crushing the rebounds in his last three games is Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets. Now, we already talked about no Draymond Green tonight, so it'll be Kevon Looney and company trying to keep Joker off of the glass. They did a poor job in the last game. These two teams just met 1 game ago back on December 28th. Joker pulled in 18 boards. Over his last 3 games, 21, 22, and 18 rebounds, respectively. He's back up today at 13.5 boards. He's averaging 15.6 over that 5-game span. So maybe you take a look at Nikola Jokic here in a rematch game against this Golden State Warriors front court. Let's go see how many rebounds per game Golden State's given up to opposing centers in the last 7 games. Well, we got to kind of go down a ways here. They're kind of middle of the pack, about 15.2 rebounds allowed. 15.2 rebounds allowed. Now, obviously, this guy here, he is a above average rebounder. So he could be in a good spot. He's been absolutely getting on the boards in his last 3 games. Let's pull a projection up for Joker, because I think he's going to be a popular pick tonight. So we want to dig into it a little bit further. I got him projected for 13.1 rebounds. Now, in 2 different books, he is a betting favorite at the moment, minus 130, minus 135 odds to go over, to cover 13.5 boards. So what do you guys think? Is he going to repeat what he did last game, pull in 18, 20 rebounds against the Golden State Warriors? It remains to be seen. Only time will tell, but that's another option for you to consider tonight. I talked about Chris Middleton's rebounds at 4.5. He's let me down now, 2 straight games. Do you feel comfortable going back to the over here with Bobby Portis, with Giannis Antetokounmpo back in the lineup for Milwaukee? I don't know. This guy could be another one of those options where you click the under on his rebounds tonight. Just not showing the rebounding upside that we're hoping for. But I will say this, it's a dangerous proposition to go under on Chris Middleton's rebounds because Orlando's giving up 9.4 rebounds per game, which is the 4th most to opposing small forwards in the last 7 games. So clicking under on Chris Middleton at 4.5 rebounds is a little bit dicey. It's a little dicey. I know that he's only covered this in 2 out of his last 5 games, 40% hit rate, but this is a plus rebound matchup for him. But maybe he doesn't benefit. Maybe it's Giannis and Portis that really benefit. Let's pull up a projection on Middleton, see what the Action Labs tools have to say. And they got him going for 6 boards tonight. Do we fade the projections or do we ride with them? I will also tell you this on 2 different books, minus 135 odds to go over 4.5 rebounds. So the projections, the odds, the betting public, that is, because that's how these odds are made up. It's people with real money out there on these sports books betting the over, betting the under. So the betting public right now is taking the over at 4.5 boards, which kind of lines up with these projections of 6 rebounds. So are we fading the public, fading the projections, and going against those two pieces of information and taking the under on Chris Middleton, or are we just going to fade? That's always an option too. For me, this will probably be a spot where I fade. Just doesn't add up. The things aren't adding up for me. And when it doesn't add up, I'm out of there. Appreciate everybody who's joining me this morning. Todd says, must be a delay. When you said only a few likes, I showed 64 at that time. Okay. Well, that's a lot better than 4. I was going to say, with 100 and something people in here, we only had 4 likes. That's kind of wonky. It's kind of wonky. Let's get them likes up, people. Thank you, Captain Shango, for the reminder. Let's get those likes up. Faux show. Faux show. Yeah, I'm using Action Labs. Like I said, if you guys are interested in signing up for Fantasy Labs, Action Labs, not only do you get these player prop tools, which is what you're seeing here, the Action Labs tools, but you also get fantasy point models here, which give you fantasy point projections. So you would use like the FanDuel projections, because FanDuel scoring is the same as PrizePicks scoring. You get all of that when you sign up for Fantasy Labs. So hopefully I'll have a promo code, a discount code coming soon. So anybody that wants to sign up for it, hold off. And hopefully I can save you a few dollars or more when you sign up for Fantasy Labs. Stay tuned. Big things coming in 2022, like I said at the top of the show. All right, we've talked some points. We've talked some rebounds. Let's talk some assists. Who are the top dime droppers? We got some guys here in the 10-game span who have been doing a fantastic job at assisting. The guy that's kind of standing out to me is this guy. Because at 3.5 assists in the last 10 games, 80% hit rate. 8 out of 10 games, he has gone for 4 or more assists. You got to love what you're seeing here with Seth Curry. Now, it's been 5 straight games for Seth Curry, covering 3.5 assists. And if we go back and look at the December 16th matchup against Brooklyn, he dropped 4 assists, which is enough for him to go over 3.5. So 80% hit rate in the last 10, 100% hit rate in the last 5, averaging 6 assists per game in that span. What would we call Mr. Seth Curry? I think he's operating as more of the point guard. Is that fair to say? Point guard for the Philadelphia 76ers. So we go down and we find the Brooklyn Nets. We're going to see how many assists they give up per game to opposing point guards. And they're kind of middle of the pack, giving up about 8 assists per game to opposing point guards. So he's kind of the point guard. Tyrese Maxey, probably more of that shooting guard spot for Philadelphia. So I think 8 assists gives us plenty of room, plenty of upside here for Mr. Seth Curry to cover his prop tonight. So we'll go over to the assist category. We will type in Curry. And we don't want Big Brother Steph. We want to look at Seth. So why don't we just clear that out and go here. All right, 3.2 projected assists. That puts him really close to the 3.5 marker, but it's less than 3.5. So not only that, we're seeing some action, minus 130 odds to go under 3.5. So despite the phenomenal hit rates, 80% in the last 10 games, 100% in the last 5 games, we're seeing projections and we're seeing real life money being placed on the under for Seth Curry at 3.5 assists. I don't know why. Not sure why they're going against the historical data here, that the high hit rates for Seth Curry, but they are. The betting public, maybe they're a bunch of stooges. Maybe they just look at projections like this 3.2 and they're like, well, that's got to be a lock for an under, right? Maybe they don't dig as far as we dig and look at the game logs and look at how often he's covered 3.5 assists. I have no idea, folks. But it's hard for me to take an under on a guy with an 80% hit rate in his last 10 and a 100% hit rate in his last 5. I'm just saying. All right, some other guys to consider who have been hitting their assist props at a high rate. We talked about Joel Embiid. We like his points tonight against Nick Claxton. I don't think Nick Claxton has what it takes to stop Joel Embiid. I think you'd agree with me right there, right? But his assists have also been hitting 70% of the time in the last 10 games. If we look at his last 5 games, 60% hit rate. So he's doing a pretty good job here overall, averaging about 3.6 assists. Now, I'd probably say his points are my favorite way to go right now. I think later we'll get free throws up. If he's at like 6.5 free throws against Brooklyn, take the over. Joel Embiid is a free throw monster. He's like the king of the free throw props. So if we get him up at 6.5, maybe even 7.5, I say we slap the over on his free throws. They have been money. So keep an eye out on that. Real quickly, we'll take a look at the center position, see how many assists per game are given up by this Brooklyn Nets squad to opposing bigs. And they're giving up about 3.2. So not a plus matchup, not a minus, kind of an average matchup here for Joel Embiid. Let's go ahead and pull up his projection. Got him going for 3.7 dimes. He's a minus 140 betting favorite to go under. So I'm probably off of that prop. Despite the high hit rates over the last 10, I'd feel better about taking the over on Seth Curry. Probably just wouldn't want to mess with Joel Embiid where he's at. Another one maybe to consider, Giannis Antetokounmpo at 4.5 assists on most sportsbooks. He's been rounded up or bumped up by PrizePicks to 5 assists. At 5 assists over the last 5 games, he's actually got an 80% hit rate, going for 5 or more dimes in 4 out of the last 5 games. He's going up against Orlando tonight. He had 6 assists against Orlando in that last matchup. He is the kind of the de facto power forward for the Milwaukee Bucks. So if we go look at the Magic, they're giving up about 4.2 assists per game to opposing power forwards. Again, not a plus or minus matchup for Giannis, just an average matchup. We go and type in his name here to Action Labs. We got him at 5.2 dimes, so they like him to cover the prop. Even at 5, you can take the over here. Maybe it pushes. At 4.5 assists, we're seeing minus 165 and minus 160 betting odds to go over 4.5. So keep an eye out on him. Nothing else really standing out. You got Nikola Jokic at 7.5. What did he do last game against Golden State? It's not going to load. Let's try refreshing. Jokic, 7.5 dimes. He had just 5 against Golden State in the last game. Listen, he's gone under in 4 out of his last 5 games, averaging 5.6 assists in that span. So maybe we slap the under on Nikola Jokic tonight. Maybe we do. Let's pull up a projection for him. I got him going for 7.9. And despite the low hit rates in the last 5 games, people are smashing the over. Minus 140 betting favorite, over 7.5 dimes. Okay. There you go. All right, so that's going to be it for the assist props. There's not a whole lot of names here to talk about. You know, you've kind of seen the best of the best. Seth Curry stood out to me. Maybe take the over on Giannis and hope and pray that he goes for at least 6. I think this could be one that ends up pushing. I know Steph Curry's been one that's been a good under lately. 5 straight games, guys. 5 straight games where he has went under 6.5. I bet you if I pull him up right here, they're going to say he's going to go over, right? Oh, no. Well, he's at 5.9. So maybe you go under on Steph Curry. Projected for 5.9. But he is a betting favorite at 125. Minus 125 odds to go over 6.5. But you could see for yourself here, 0 for his last 5 at covering 6.5 dimes. Just not getting it done. If you want to overplay or an underplay rather, maybe click the under on Steph Curry and his 6.5 assists. All right, enough about the dimes. Let's move over to the 3-point makes. We've only got 4 names to talk about here on the PrizePicks board. Hopefully we get some more names up later. If we get Andrew Wiggins up at 1.5 3-point makes, 80% hit rate in his last 10 games. He is a name worth looking at. Other names worth looking at, Bobby Portis. In the last 10 games for him, 70% hit rate. Don't know if we're going to see any of these guys because we don't ever get the high hit rate guys up on the PrizePicks board. They do a good job of keeping them away from us. We have to settle for guys like Will Barton, who is at a 50% hit rate over his last 10 games. You can kind of see how Will Barton's been doing over the last 5. Gone under in 4 games, over in just 1, which was against this Golden State Warriors team. What do they think about Will Barton tonight? Let's pull up a projection for him. 2.3. So that puts him under 2.5. Right now, he's a minus 125 betting favorite to go under 2.5 3-point makes. I've been off of the 3-point props lately because this is the kind of selection, options that we get just not anything exciting, not anything worth taking. A lot of these are just like 50-50 balls, it feels like. Maybe you look at Harden against Philadelphia. Let's look at the matchup. He's kind of running the point, I would say, for Brooklyn. Let's just look at both point guard and shooting guards and see how many threes Philadelphia has given up per game to both positions. About 2.7 per game. 2.7 given up in the last 7 games to point guards. So not a great, plus situation or matchup here for Harden. And then we go and take a look at this other one here. Shooting guards. Philadelphia doing a good job against shooting guards too, limiting them to just about 2.8 3-point makes in the last 7 games. So not a fantastic matchup here for James Harden, but can he do it? Of course he can, but will he? I don't know. Nobody knows. 2.6 is his projection. He's a minus 115 betting favorite to go under 2.5. So not really loving any of these 3-point props. For me right now, probably going to be a fade on all 4 of these guys. Nothing's really jumping off the page to me. All right. So I'm probably going to stay off of these 3-point props. So what's happening, folks? Let's go ahead and take some of your favorite plays. Like I said, short slate, small board, not a lot of options here just yet. Hopefully we'll get some more props up. Looks like, it's been the same names here. Same names so far. But yeah, I'll take some of your questions here, and we'll do a little bit of research on your favorite props. Appreciate everybody who's joining. Thank you so much for all of you who are watching. Yes, definitely trying to get that promo code for you guys. So Regina, definitely wait for the code. Hopefully it'll save you a few bucks, and I can kind of pay it forward. We're at 89 likes now. Appreciate you, Tony, for the update. And I appreciate everybody who's reminding the ones that haven't liked the stream yet to like it. It's free. One little muscle movement. You go up, move your thumb up, hit that thumbs up button, and lets me know that you guys are digging what I'm doing here for you every morning. All right, you guys are starting to leave some picks, some props up in the chat. Let's see what you're talking about here. Denzel, we'll start with you. We've got Nikola Jokic. Under points or under fantasy points? You're liking either or? You're asking which is the best out of those two for Joker? Great question. Let's go ahead and take a look. We haven't talked about Joker's points or fantasy points yet. He's at 26.5, obviously facing off against the Golden State Warriors. Nobody's really going to stand in his way. I mean, Kevon Looney, we're not really worried about him too much, right? What I worry about more is that this game, I think the last time these two teams played, it kind of seemed like more of a guard-focused type of game where, both teams' guards and wing players were a lot more involved. So maybe Jokic kind of gets almost like game scripted out. He dropped 22 points on Golden State in the last one, which puts him about 5 points shy of where he needs to get to tonight. 27 points if you're thinking about taking the over. And you can see in his last 5 games, obviously, it's been a struggle for Jokic to cover. It's been a struggle for Jokic to cover 26.5 points. He's averaging just 22 points per game in that 5-game span. Not a very good average for Joker. So we're going to go take a look at the center position. We're going to see how many points Golden State's been giving up here. Look, we got to go all the way down to the bottom of the list here. They're giving up just 16 points per game. And I think I called this the last time these two teams met. I said, I don't think Jokic is going to be held to 16 points. I think he'll be somewhere between 20 and 25. And I kind of think that's the case tonight. Could this dude go totally nuclear tonight and just destroy Golden State? Yeah, because, it's Kevon Looney. There's no Draymond Green. They don't really have a lot of quality big men. So he could have a big game. But will he? I don't know. Golden State does a great job over the last 7 games at defending the center position. So let's go pull a projection up for you on Nikola Jokic. I got him going for 28.4 points, which puts him about 2 points higher than where he's at today on PrizePicks, according to Action Labs. You look at the numbers here, he's at 27.5 points on 3 different books. All 3 books seeing the action on the under at 27.5 points, which is why PrizePicks has kind of priced him down at 26.5 points. Makes it tricky for us. A tricky situation indeed. Don't know that I love that, to be honest with you. Now, you also asked about his fantasy points. We'll just take a quick peek at that. The last time he faced Golden State, fell short at covering 58.5, ended up with 58.1. Really, really close, but no cigar. He's covered this prop of 58.5 fantasy points twice in the last 5, so that's a 40% hit rate. Let's use the NBA player models on Fantasy Labs to pull a projection up for Nikola Jokic tonight. They got him going for 59 fantasy points, which is a slight edge, a slight lean toward the over, right? And his rating here is 86.3, so that's a pretty strong rating. That's a good grade, in other words, a good rating for Nikola Jokic tonight. So if the game stays close and competitive, I think Jokic could get there. If you're asking me which way I would go, I'd probably feel more comfortable taking the over on his fantasy points versus his real life points, because this dude does everything, right? He rebounds, he gets assists, gets the blocks, the steals. He does a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So I would probably feel more comfortable about his fantasy score if you're looking to take an over on him. And then, I don't know, the points for me, it looks like a very difficult matchup. Don't know that I would hit the over on his points. Maybe I would just fade his points altogether. We got to go back to the earlier super chat while it's on my mind here. And I believe David was asking about Tobias Harris first half fantasy points versus the Brooklyn Nets here. They got him at 17.5. 17.5 fantasy points versus Brooklyn. I believe the stat that was thrown out there, the nugget by David, was that he has covered this 17.5 fantasy points in 8 out of his last 9 meetings against the Brooklyn Nets. So I don't have a way of pulling up a projection for just first half fantasy points, but I can pull a projection on his full game fantasy points. He's at about 38.6. 38.6. So if we take this 17.5 and kind of multiply it by 2, that's like 35 fantasy points. So he's got about a 3-point fantasy edge or difference here, according to the Fantasy Labs fantasy points projections. So he might be a little bit too low on PrizePicks is kind of what I'm getting at. This could be a good spot for you to take an over on Tobias Harris. Let's go look at his full game fantasy points real quick, just for comparison's sake. He's at 35.5. So he's a little higher in the full game. They've taken kind of a lower half game format. 17.5, right? That's like a little bit less than 35, right? It's 35. So kind of a lighter number on the first half. But if you look at the last 4 games here for Tobias Harris, he has gone over 35.5 fantasy points in 4 straight games. He had 53 fantasy points against Toronto 1 game ago. Now against Brooklyn here, back on December 16th, his full game fantasy points, 28.9. But I guess, apparently, he covered the first half fantasy points against Brooklyn in that game, but did not cover the full game. So yeah, at 35.5 full game fantasy points, again, 38.6 over on Fantasy Labs, you're seeing about a 3 fantasy point difference between the two sites. So I could definitely get on board with a first half over on Tobias Harris and his fantasy points. We got another super chat that was dropped in here by Affordable Luxury Records. Affordable Luxury Records, thank you so much for the super chat. He would like to know, or she would like to know, I'm not sure. Not sure what Affordable Luxury Records even means, really. I'll have to look into that. But Maxey and Patty Mills under on fantasy points. Tyrese Maxey and Patty Mills under on fantasy points. Let's take a look at both of them. We got Maxey at 25.5 fantasy points. The last 2 games, he has went under. But if we look at the bigger picture here, the 5-game sample size, 27.4 fantasy points puts him over 25.5. He's hit this in 60% up the last 5 games. So let's pull a projection up first for Tyrese Maxey. 31.5 fantasy points is his projection against Brooklyn tonight. So they're really, really on the over here for Tyrese Maxey. That's like a 6-point difference, fantasy point difference. So maybe they're thinking it's a bounce back spot for Tyrese Maxey. Let's look at this matchup a little bit closer here. For that, we can go to the shooting guard position. We'll also look at small forward, but we'll start with shooting guard and go to Brooklyn and see how many fantasy points per game that they give up to opposing shooting guards. We have to go down quite a ways here. Brooklyn toward the bottom, giving up about 38.6 fantasy points per game to shooting guards in the last 7 games. Now, if we check the small forward position, go find Brooklyn. They're giving up about 34.97. Let's just call it 35 fantasy points per game to opposing small forwards. So it's not looking like a great situation for Tyrese Maxey here. Both shooting guards and small forwards kind of being held in check by this Brooklyn Nets squad. But the projections for Maxey, 31.5, definitely suggests we should be going over at just 25.5. So I don't know that I feel great about taking the under on Maxey, but I get it just due to the matchups. Doesn't look like a great matchup for him. And then you also asked about Patty Mills, the other side of this game. With Patty Mills, it's going to be kind of tricky because Kevin Durant's back. Patty Mills is at just 24 fantasy points. You're thinking about going under on Mills. Philadelphia, pretty good team defensively. You're looking at Mills here. You're going to be a little deceived by these game logs if you haven't been paying close attention to the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, they had a plethora of guys that were ruled out recently over the last 5 games for their team. Meaning Patty Mills was thrusted into a much larger role, had much higher usage with Kevin Durant and company out. But KD's back. So maybe we do go under on Patty Mills tonight at 24 fantasy points. Let's look at the matchup first. He's going to probably be serving as that, he's probably physically more like a point guard, but he's like an undersized shooting guard with James Harden doing a lot of the ball handling and playmaking for Brooklyn. So let's look at both. We'll look at the point guard position first and see how many fantasy points per game Philadelphia gives up to opposing point guards. And as I mentioned, Philadelphia, a good defensive team. They're giving up just 35 fantasy points per game. That is the first fewest fantasy points per game to opposing point guards. Very difficult matchup for Patty Mills if you consider him to be more of the point guard. If you consider him to be more of that pseudo shooting guard, well, the matchup's still difficult. 36.5 fantasy points allowed by Philadelphia in the last 7 games, which is the 5th fewest fantasy points allowed to opposing shooting guards. So point guards and shooting guards against Philadelphia having a hell of a time from what it looks like over the last 7 games. Let's pull up a projection, though, on the fantasy points here for Patty Mills. I got him going for 24. So PrizePicks has a solid number up, a very sharp number at 24 fantasy points. But if you're asking me, with Kevin Durant back in the lineup, with the matchups being considered here, I'd probably have to lean toward the under on Patty Mills. But we know this dude can score. He could fill it up, and he could go off. So there you go. Let's get back to the chat here and see what else you guys are liking or not liking. We talked about Jokic. Thank you for that, Denzel. Captain Shango, you're liking Franz Wagner over fantasy points. Well, I mentioned that Wagner had an absolutely massive game last game. 54.9 fantasy points against the Milwaukee Bucks. Again, they're playing the Milwaukee Bucks again tonight. We look at the previous 4 games, 19-9, 32-5, 38-3, 37-2. Now, I can't say that I expect Wagner to go for another like 55-point fantasy night. I just don't see it happening. I think Milwaukee's going to come out determined to put the clamps on this kid and slow him down this game. They're going to do their best. But yeah, I do like some Wagner. His usage is going to be sky high once again with all the injuries to the Orlando Magic. I've got Franz Wagner, not Mo Wagner. Moritz Wagner is his brother, Mo Wagner. I've got Franz Wagner at 29.7 fantasy points. They like him going under 34.5. Maybe he's held in check tonight, guys. I don't know. Like I said, I'm sure Milwaukee's not going to let a rookie have another almost 40-point game against them. I think they're going to do their darndest to clamp the young kid. So not sure that I love the over. I think people are going to see his last game against Milwaukee and fall in love with it, have some recency bias, they call it. I don't know. The usage will be there for Wagner, though. That's probably going to be one that I step away from and not take. I'll probably fade that one, personally. What else are you folks liking here? Clayton, you're talking about Steph Curry over on points. Yeah, I kind of alluded to him at the top of the show that I like Steph Curry tonight versus Denver, especially the way that the first half started out for Steph Curry in that last matchup against the Denver Nuggets. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what happened to Steph Curry in the first half of the last matchup against this Denver Nuggets team. But the dude started the game off with like 3 turnovers, some personal fouls, and like had 0 points until the last few minutes of the second quarter. I think he finished the first half with 2 points. I don't think that happens 2 games in a row. He did end up with 23 points on the night against Denver in that last matchup against them. Now imagine if he would have, hit a few shots in the first half instead of 1 shot. He would have easily surpassed that 29.5. He was at 29.5 in this previous matchup against Denver. So they have reduced his points prop down to 27.5. Knocked it down by 2 points. This is a great spot to go back to Steph Curry at a 2-point discount against the same team that he faced just 1 game ago. I think we go back to it, and I think we go back to the over on Steph Curry tonight. You look at his last 5 games, 32.4 point per game average. He can't possibly have as bad of a first half against the Denver Nuggets as he did last game. I just can't fathom it. Just don't think it happens. Let's look at this matchup, though. We'll go to the point guard position. We'll go pull up how many points the Denver Nuggets have allowed to opposing point guards over the last 7 games. Guys, second most, over 28 points per game. 28 points per game to opposing point guards in the last 7 games. Now you factor in that we have one of the best, if not the best point guard of all time, or at least right now in the league. Maybe all time's a little tough. I'm sure there's some Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas fans and some of these other guys out there. But listen, Steph Curry's one of the best point guards of all time. He is probably the best point guard right now in the NBA. Denver's giving up the second most points, and we're getting a 2-point discount on Steph Curry versus where he was at the last game at 29.5 points. So I think we go right back to it. He's coming off of a bad game here. Now watch this. Steph Curry is projected for 35 points, according to Action Labs. 35 points, according to Action Labs. Okay, maybe that number is a little high. Even if we say 30 points, we take 5 points off of that number. 30 points. Let's just say he's projected for 30 points versus the 27.5. I mean, that's still a 2.5 point edge, right? I don't know, man. I think we go back to it. I just think it looks too great. And I think Steph Curry's too great to allow himself to have another bad game like he did last time. So really liking Steph Curry over on points tonight. Denzel, you're asking about Wendell Carter Jr. over on rebounds. And again, guys, I don't mean to sound like a salesman. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to sell you on any picks or plays. I'm just saying all the numbers here kind of just lead me to think that Steph Curry is primed and positioned for a bounce back. Okay? Not here to sell you on anything. Wendell Carter Jr. on rebounds, 10.5 boards. You're liking the over. He did not get the job done against Milwaukee in their last matchup. Finished with 10 boards. 10 boards. He's going up against Giannis and Bobby Portis. 2 very formidable rebounders in their own right. Now, I believe the last time these two teams played, Robin Lopez started alongside of Wendell Carter Jr. and probably hampered his upside when it comes to rebounds. Robin Lopez is out tonight. Don't know who's going to start for Orlando just yet, but I know that Robin Lopez will not be playing. So maybe you go back to Wendell Carter Jr. on an overplay here. Let's pull up a projection for him. 11.3 projected rebounds. We're seeing him on 2 different books at minus 145. odds to go over right now. So the betting public slapping down their cold, hard cash on the over. Wendell Carter Jr. at 10.5 boards. Water break. So I can dig it, Denzel. I can dig what you're digging here on Wendell Carter Jr.'s rebounds. Captain Shango, we talked Patty Mills a little bit in his fantasy points. Didn't love it with Kevin Durant coming back. I think that the matchup for Patty Mills is going to be a tough one against the Philadelphia 76ers. He's at 14.5 points. I'll just quickly pull up a projection. You know, guys, it's a 4-game slate. We could sit here and talk about these guys all day long. But, 4 games, we'll keep it short and sweet. Let's refresh here because I'm not seeing a projection for Patrick Mills yet on his points prop. There we go. Refresh. We get some more props loaded up here. He's at 14.7, so a slight favorite to go over. I think I would like the over on his real life points more than I would like the over on his fantasy points. If he's going to do anything tonight, it's going to be probably score. I don't know how much of the other stats that he racks up with Durant and company back, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, all that stuff. So maybe take the over on his points and leave his fantasy points alone. Dim Dog, you're going with Seth Curry over assists. Is that what you're liking? Or are you talking about going under on Steph Curry and his 6.5 assists? Both of the Curry boys and their assist props are in play for different reasons. I mean, you could go under on Steph Curry's assist, and you could absolutely take his brother Seth over assists. Kind of interesting. One's crushing his assist prop. The other one, not so much. He's crushing the under. Let's see what else you guys are liking. Johnson Daily Sports has caps locks turned on. Has the caps lock key smashed. Apparently got stuck on his keyboard. Do you like Okoro over 21 fantasy points? Well, Johnson Daily Sports, since you yelled at me, I know you didn't yell, but let's look at Isaac Okoro's fantasy points. I'll do that for you right now, Johnson's Fantasy Sport Daily Sports. Let's do it. You're hyped up about this pick. Let's see why. 21 fantasy points for Isaac Okoro. That's his number, his line tonight on PrizePicks. We look at the last 5 games here for Okoro. He's averaging about 24.2 fantasy points per game. It's looking pretty good here, Johnson Daily Sports. Thanks for dropping the pick in the chat. A lot of names out for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Ricky Rubio, Darius Garland, Colin Sexton. Isaac Okoro should have the green light. Should have the green light. Let's pull up a projection for Johnson Daily Sports. I've got Isaac Okoro going for about 21 fantasy points. 20.8 fantasy points to be exact, going up against Washington. So I kind of want to wait and see who's in, who's out for Washington, because the Wizards could be without both Bradley Beal, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, guys who could get in the way of Isaac Okoro potentially. But if we go and look and see how many fantasy points are allowed by the Washington Wizards to opposing shooting guards, they're right there at the top of the list, giving up about 43 fantasy points per game. So right there around the top 10. So yeah, I'd call this a plus matchup for Isaac Okoro. I think he's going to step into more of an opportunity, a larger role with all the aforementioned guards being out for Cleveland. Okoro has some potential to get it done. Eric, you're asking about Giannis Antetokounmpo over first half points. Let's take a look at that. No, you didn't yell. I'm just kidding. Let's take a look at that for you, Eric. Giannis Antetokounmpo over first half points. Yeah, if you're going to take any props from this game for guys like Giannis and company, I'd say first half is probably the way to go. I don't remember if Giannis covered the first half point prop in the last game against the Magic or not. Unfortunately, we don't get game logs here for that. But what we can do is pull up StatMuse, and we can do a little search for this. We can do Giannis Antetokounmpo first half points, game logs. That should help us get to where we're trying to get. Perfect. So you can see right here at the top, Giannis had 9 points versus the Magic on Tuesday. So he had 9 first half points. So if you're looking to take the over on this, let's look at the last 3 game logs here for Giannis. 9, 7, 7. Shoot, we even go back to the 4th game log. 11. So 4 straight games he has failed to go over 12.5 points versus the Magic. You got one where he goes over against Houston with 18. Going back even further to the 6th and 7th game logs, 9 and 8 respectively. So just kind of looking at this little snapshot here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. His last 7 games, he's only gone over this number 1 time in the last 7. So not a very good first half point scorer from the looks of things. I would say either fade it or take the under, Eric. Lewis, you're liking Patty Mills to go over on assists. Are you liking Patty Mills to go over on assists for any particular reason? Do you think that he takes on more of an assister role and less of a scoring role with Kevin Durant back? Maybe that's where you're going with that. 2.5 assists. We see in the last 5 games, he's covered this in 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. I got him projected for 3 dimes today. Got him on 2 different sports books at minus 120 and minus 115, respectively, to cover this prop. So projected to go over. Some of the money's coming in on the over. Not super high money, not super strong odds or juice. But yeah, maybe he takes a little bit of a backseat from scoring and drops a few more dimes than he typically does. Ryan, you're asking about James Harden's first half points, going over on his first half points. Let's go back over to the first half player prop board here. We got James Harden at just 11.5. We know the matchup against Philly. They're very tough when it comes to defending opposing point guards and shooting guards. Very tough. So what we'll have to do here is take a look and see if James Harden first half points is a good option. Well, a lot of these games, these recent games, are without Kevin Durant and company in the lineup. You'd have to go through and look and see the games that Kevin Durant was in, the games that Kevin Durant was out, kind of compare how he changes that dynamic. Not going to do all that right here, right now, because I got a ton of other questions to get to. But yeah, use StatMuse to kind of help you with some of these questions. You can kind of get a look, though, how many times he's covered 11.5 points over the course of this season. First half points. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not great. 10 out of what? 30 something games, probably 20 something. So I don't know. You'll have to, again, go back and look, see which games Kevin Durant was in, and then look at the first half point props for James Harden and see how many times that he actually covered that. KD and Embiid points over an easy play. Ooh, there's never any easy plays. I wish there was. I wish there were some free squares out there. But yeah, we talked about liking the Embiid points prop against Nick Claxton. So I definitely like some Embiid. I don't know what to expect with Kevin Durant. Him kind of like coming back after a little bit of a layoff, few games or whatever it was. It's been out since December 16th, couple of weeks. But dude was on fire right before he left due to COVID protocols. So, yeah, I mean, you could definitely take the over on KD. He dropped 34 points. That was actually his last game that he played was against Philadelphia. He had 34 points against the Sixers. I will pull up a projection for you on Kevin Durant. Got him going for 30.8 points, guys. 30.8, almost 31 points, according to the Action Lab projection tool. So definitely cross-reference this on some other free sites out there, some other sites that offer projections, but we're seeing some betting favorites, some betting odds on the over at 26.5 points. So don't mind that at all. Looks like a pretty decent move. We know Philly's tough against guards, but maybe the forward position not as difficult. Let's see. What else are you guys liking? Doc Rivers is in health and safety protocols. Doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. Kevin Romero reporting that Doc Rivers has entered health and safety protocols. Do we think this impacts anybody at all, like the actual players? I don't know. They won't be under the watchful guise of Doc Rivers apparently tonight. So we'll see. That's interesting news though. Ryan, you're liking Gary Harris over first half points. Well, I was liking some Gary Harris over full game, but yeah, you can also look at Gary Harris over first half points if you think the game gets into a blowout situation, which it will, because Milwaukee has shown time and time again this season that they're a lot better than we are. By we, I mean Orlando, the Orlando Magic. George is saying that the James Harden assist prop is free, guys. Who doesn't like free props? I know I do. Let's take a look at it, George. 9.5 assists for James Harden. 4 out of the last 5 games he's covered this prop. 11.2 dimes. 11.2 dimes. Do you think James Harden gets back into the sort of facilitator, more of the facilitator role? I mean, he's been Mr. Do-It-Everything. This has been like vintage, like Houston Rockets James Harden over the last couple of games, having like 30-point triple doubles and doing all kind of crazy stuff. But with KD back in the fold, how do we think that shakes things up for James Harden? I don't know. I'm going to pull a projection up for you, though, and keep things moving along here. I do have him going for 10.6 assists. 2 different books. We're seeing the action coming in on the over at 9.5 dimes. So, yeah. Maybe the matchup in terms of scoring for Mr. Harden is a lot more difficult, and he's passing it off a little bit more to his teammates. Yeah, so you could definitely take a shot on the James Harden over. Going through here, let's see what else you guys are talking about. I'm trying to just kind of skim through. Probably not going to get to everybody's questions, folks. That's just the way it goes. We got a lot of them in here. A lot of you folks watching. Thank you, by the way, for tuning in this morning. Appreciate you being here. If you haven't dropped a like yet, I'd appreciate you doing so when you get a moment. Thank you. Thank you. Scrolling through, lots of chitter chatter here. Here's one we haven't talked about. Manraj Singh is asking about Andrew Wiggins over on points. He's liking some Andrew Wiggins over on points. We got Wiggins up on the board. We do. He's at 17.5. He's coming off of a 21-point game against this same Denver Nuggets squad just one game ago. Now we look at the last 5 games, 80% hit rate. His averages 20.2 points per game versus Denver. Let's quickly pull up a projection for you for Mr. Andrew Wiggins. If you guys have any hard-hitting, pressing questions, Super Chat's the best way to get them to me, folks. It's the best way to do it. I got Andrew Wiggins at 19.8 points. Almost 20 projected points tonight. Puts him over 17.5 by about 2.5 points. We got 3 different books where we're seeing a slight edge toward the over here. Minus 115, 116 odds on the over. So, yeah, I don't mind Andrew Wiggins, but I like Steph Curry tonight in a bounce back. That's just me. Yayo Peso, Jeff Green fantasy points. You're liking the under. Well, I think there's some pending news for the Golden State Warriors, right? We need to see what's happening with AG, Eric Gordon. I don't see Jeff Green up here. Maybe they pulled him? I don't see Uncle Jeff. Uncle Jeff's not up on the board. Dan T says, you think Harden first half, 11.5 points is an overlook? We talked about that briefly. Like I said, you're going to have to dig in a little bit deeper, more than I have time to do here on today's stream. But you're going to need to see when those games, when Kevin Durant was in, like how did James Harden do in terms of scoring in a first half format? So that would be my advice. Yeah, I don't see Jeff Green either. Jeff B, 1988. Not seeing Jeff Green. Yayo, you're liking Giannis fantasy points under as well. You're just dropping all kind of little picks up in here, huh? 51.5. He had just 45.2 against Orlando. This game's going to have to stay close, I think, for Giannis to cover 51.5. So I don't mind you taking a shot on the under for Antetokounmpo against the Magic. Let's pull up a projection for you. Got him going for 52.7. So PrizePicks taking a little bit of a lower number here, taking an under versus the Fantasy Labs projections. He's gone for 51.5 or more fantasy points in 3 out of 5 games, but fell way short at just 45.2 in the last game against the Magic. Just going to scroll through, skimming through. Like I said, I'm going to just cherry pick some ones that are looking good here. I'm not going to be able to get to every question. Not about to get to every question. Austin, you said you missed the stream with the Action Network yesterday. When are you doing another? Hopefully at least every Wednesday. I actually have a meeting coming up soon with the Action Network, a little insider information between you and I, to discuss our plans for 2022 when it comes to video content. So maybe there's going to be more opportunities for me to make content with the Action Network. But for right now, I would say Wednesday afternoon's probably going to be the safest bet. Cameron, you wanted me to check into some Evan Mobley. What do you want me to check? You got to be a little bit more clear, concise. There's lots of different things I could check into on Evan Mobley. Derek says, what's up, CJ? How are we doing today? We're doing great, my friend. Enjoying this little 4-game NBA slate. Finding some good props, I think. Some good positions for us to take out on today's short slate. So thanks for the props yesterday. Led us to victory again. Yes, I can't take all the credit. I am just the catalyst, the conduit to some of these plays that you guys drop in the chat. I can't say that they're all my original ideas. Shout out to Hoodat117, one of our members in the Patreon community, for that Zach LaVine over first half points. The Marcus Morris one, I will take credit for that. We did kind of uncover that gem, right? Evan Mobley points. There we go. Cameron's talking about Evan Mobley's points. Love it. 17.5 points for Evan Mobley going up against Washington. Had 22. I think we got some pending news, right, with Jarrett Allen. We need to make sure that Jarrett Allen is out before we take any overs on Evan Mobley. So we're kind of playing the wait and see game here with the Cavs and their injury news. But we know their backcourt's going to be pretty depleted. So I would expect guys who are more known commodities, like an Evan Mobley, to get more touches, more opportunities, more usage with all the injuries in the Cleveland Cavaliers backcourt. But let's pull a projection up here for young Evan Mobley. Dang, they got him going for 13.4 points against Washington. And I'm seeing some money, minus 114 odds, under 17.5. So not a lot of faith here in Evan Mobley. Maybe it's an Isaac Okoro night. Scrolling through, skimming through, seeing what you guys are liking here. Tony says, that dude earlier said, hey Siri, scream this pick. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Glad I can make you laugh. It's all about entertainment here. We'll call it infotainment. A little bit of info, a little bit of entertainment. Hopefully you're getting a little bit of both. A little bit of both. Let's see what else is standing out here. Not seeing a whole lot here. Not seeing a whole lot more. Jeff Green is out, so they pulled Jeff Green from the board. Yeah, we liked some Isaac Okoro, Adam Fisher. I think Isaac Okoro over fantasy points looks like a solid way to go. How are the Wizards favored over the Cavs? The Cavs are wiped out, man. We're going to have to wait and see who's in and who's out for the Cavs. Maybe Jarrett Allen is back. What is Franz Wagner over in points? You want to take a look at Franz Wagner? Had a huge scoring night the other night. Dropped 38 real-life points. He's at 18-5 today against Milwaukee. Do we think he returns back to the over 19 or more points? Maybe. He's going to get every opportunity to do so. They got him projected for 16-1. Now, 3 different sites, 3 different books have him at 19.5 points, which is 1 point higher than where he's at on PrizePicks. But it's important to mention that on all 3 of those sites, he is a betting favorite at the moment to go under 19.5 points. Betting favorite to go under 19.5 points. If Jarrett Allen is out again, he's currently listed as doubtful. I like Mobley's rebounds. Yeah, I think that makes some sense for sure. Rel saying, James Harden's history against Embiid, I feel like they're beefing. I did not know about that beef. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Well, I think that's going to do it, guys. Chat's kind of slowed down. I think we've talked about plenty of fantastic plays. Let's just do a quick recap since it is such a short slate. Some points props that we're kind of liking. The overs, we're going to just pretty much look at the overs here. Chris Middleton over 17.5 points versus Orlando kind of stood out to me. Gary Harris over 13.5 points. We liked both. Joel Embiid going up against Nick Claxton tonight as an option. Kevin Durant, the other side of this game at 26.5 points. He dropped over 30 points against Philly the last time these two teams met. Scrolling through the other points props, maybe you take a shot on Isaac Okoro. Should have a much bigger role for Cleveland with injuries to Colin Sexton, Ricky Rubio, and Darius Garland. None of those guys in the lineup, so maybe Isaac Okoro steps into a bigger role. One of my favorite plays of the night, Steph Curry in a bounce-back game, a rematch versus Denver. Struggled in the first half of that last meeting against the Denver Nuggets. He was at 29.5 points just one game ago. Tonight, he's at 27.5. I think that they've dropped his number probably a little bit too much here. You can also look at Andrew Wiggins over 17.5 points as well. He's been doing a good job of getting it done. We didn't talk about Markkanen, but I know Markkanen's points not been hitting lately, so you could take a shot on him potentially on an underplay. Maybe. Let's go take a look at some of the rebound props that kind of stood out. We talked a little bit about Franz Wagner. Don't know that I love it, but if I was gonna lean one way or the other, it'd probably be toward the over on Wagner. Not gonna touch Middleton tonight with Portis and Giannis Antetokounmpo in there. Just don't know he's going to find enough rebounds to hit that over. Other rebound props, not a whole lot that stood out. Maybe Nikola Jokic, who's riding a 3-game hot streak, 21, 22, 18 rebounds in his last 3 games. Maybe he gets back to 14 or more boards tonight in that rematch against Golden State, so that could be an option for you. Looking at some of these assist props, we talked about Giannis, who's been bumped down to 5. He's got a pretty high hit rate at 5 or more assists. I'd probably take the over on him. Maybe it ends up being a push. Totally possible. You guys had mentioned James Harden over 9.5 assists against Philly. That could definitely be a good option for you as well with Kevin Durant back. Maybe Harden drops even more dimes with KD back in the lineup. Seth Curry, probably the king of the overs on the assist props tonight. 3.5 assists, 100% hit rate in his last 5 games, 80% hit rate in his last 10 games. So Seth Curry looking like a pretty decent option. If you want to take an under on an assist prop, Steph Curry at 6.5 assists, 0% hit rate in his last 5 games. Yes, 0% hit rate. So the Curry boys definitely in play when we're talking about assists. You could go over on Seth, under on Steph. 3-point makes. Didn't really see any sexy ones that stood out to me, so I'm probably off of the 3-point makes. If we get some free throw props up on the board, Joel Embiid, the king of the free throw makes, would be my favorite play if he's up at like 6.5 or 7.5 free throw makes. So that's a quick recap. When it's a 4-game slate, I'm able to do that kind of thing for you, but that's going to do it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't liked, leave a like on your way out. Take an opportunity to do that now. Again, I will not be here tomorrow, celebrating both New Year's Eve and the eve of my my wedding anniversary with my wife. So I'm gonna go see Spider-Man. No spoilers. No spoilers. No spoilers. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Oh, no, I won't. Shit. I'll catch you guys Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, right here back on YouTube. Thanks for all your support. Whew. What a year it's been, guys. Happy New Year to everybody out there. We'll catch you in 2022, guys. Peace.